GM, Tyler, howdy, Emo Cowboy. Thank you so much for coming in. GM Skeletor, I am indeed ready for the Tyler Warren Wars. They are raging in the Matic Discord. This is actually a 20-second eliminator with one spot left. I was kind of looking at the lobbies. Going to be out of here at 10 so everyone can get over to ship chasing. So I wanted to make sure we could get in at least 2 drafts, and neither BBM looked like it was close to fill. So this is an eliminator. I haven't done too many of these, and I'm excited to get into them because I think the other eliminators I've drafted, I haven't been super thrilled with the teams. Definitely some quirks to it. Feel like the running backs can end up going a lot earlier than other positions. So it's like bizarro BBM drafts. I don't know quite how I feel about it. And, I've feel like the eliminator is a little bit like martingaling coin flips, but maybe if we draft right, it could be like martingaling weighted coin flips. And so hopefully, it seems like it'd be a super fun sweat. Like if you have one team going deep. So again, I know statistically it's likely that all your teams are dead by week 6 or 7. Even though it feels like when you have 150, if you max it, you should have something live late, but probably won't. But we're going to try anyway. So GM, Fantasy Sports Bonanza, CLN 2013, out there in the streaming streets as well. If you don't sub to him, you should. GM, 100 subs, and you got the 8 a.m. slot, and it's show called. You love to see it. Yes. Yeah, Greg, I came on a little early, but mostly because, again, I just want to make sure we get two drafts in, and so I saw this one was going to fill, so I came on to make sure that we would be able to catch the start. Bindles, GM, thank you so much for stopping by. Another one out there in the content mines, but puts out some really great stuff. So if you don't follow Bindles, what are you waiting for? So let's see if anyone wants to hop in. Again, this is a 20-second eliminator. Let me make sure I didn't actually get into a 30 here somehow. Nope, 20-second eliminator. We're waiting for one. I think these are rankings from Fanspeak as of about a week ago. I think these are the rankings that Steve over at Fanspeak puts out. If that's not true, then I'm sorry, Steve, if I'm slandering you with these rankings you disagree with. But we're full, and we're going to see what we can get here in the eliminator. Again, this is a tournament, if you're not familiar, where half the teams are eliminated in week 1 in your pod. And then after that, it is all 1v1s all the way to week 17 until it is a 3-person final. So pretty cool. It looks like we've got Skeletor in here, our friend Drinking Bleach, aka Skeletor at the 6. So glad to see you made it in. And otherwise, I don't know if I see anyone else in there. Dirty P, this is a primo time slot for me. That is awesome to hear. GM, Ant X Wall, thank you so much for coming by. And James Young says, the gang's all here. Love to see that. Probably a little unintentional shout out to the ASU fight song. As you know, ASU near and dear to my heart. I don't think anyone actually knows all the words to the fight song, but I think it ends with the gang's all here. So thank you, James, for letting me do that non sequitur no one cares about. Hartman, GM, thank you for stopping in this morning. And yep, it'll be interesting to see if we get any autoers because this took these morning contests sometimes can take a while to fill. So sometimes you have people miss a few picks before they get started. We see Bijan going at 2. Interesting choice. Again, maybe I don't know if that's a specific eliminator strategy or that's a player take. Yesterday, somebody asked who I thought would be the round 1 smash who would be the winner. And my hot take is I think it really just might be Bijan. So I will take I'll just take Saquon here. I got no problem with that. Super consistent, high upside player. Doesn't have a bye till week 9, which is nice. The later the bye week, kind of the better, but that should really be a tiebreaker because again, it is it's nice to have all your teams in with week 17 buys, but the odds of getting a team to week to week 14 buys, the odds of getting a team there are so small that it's not worth just like sacrificing projection and upside and structure to try to just stack bye weeks on the off chance that one team that gets there is the shipper. In my view, obviously you should definitely put bye weeks into a lot of consideration, but I wouldn't like go crazy trying to make all super super late bye weeks, because I just don't know that that's necessarily worth it. And sneaking through, Jefferson has an early bye week, but if you can get him over the hump in the bye, I think a lot of Jefferson teams are likely to go out that week. If your team gets through, you're going to have a piece that you're less likely to counter in a head-to-head, and could really be what you need. Nope, I just finished an eliminator to clear the sleepers. All right, Dirty People, you were on Brendan early. I actually almost hopped into an eliminator very early, and it was about to fill, and then I realized I had stuff I actually needed to do, so I jumped out. So I could have been in that one with you, almost. No idea how lucky you are to get Saquon at 5. He's going to be universal 102 in an eliminator. James, I hope you're right. I guess I kind of just passed my how fortunate I was with that pick. But let's see. I like all of these guys: BTJ, London, and Lad. That feels late. Again, this is so different. Let's see. Did anything weird happen? I guess Taylor and Bucky. This you don't see that in BBMs or in puppies, unless people are really trying to get unique. Interesting choice there. Drake, London versus Lad. I think I'm going to take Lad, as much as I do like London. I know I just said let's not worry about the bye week thing, but I'm there. It's a pretty flat tier there, so I'll err towards London. I don't necessarily want to take the ADP pick every single time, and I have them at a pretty flat tier, so I'm going to take a share of Lad here. Let's see. Oh, you think Saquon will be the 101? Interesting. CMC is the eliminator 102. Well, yeah, he's a player where if you're in a head-to-head and you see your opponent has CMC and you don't, that's if he's healthy, that's gonna feel pretty bad. You're gonna be sweating in those matchup. I took Saquon 101 in my last eliminator. All right. Well, hopefully then maybe I should have taken London, because that might be very unique. Although uniqueness is really, really less important in this contest where it's a head-to-head. So I'm not, I guess, as worried about unique combos as when you're trying to get into a 500 1,000 person final where that could really separate you. If you're in a head-to-head, you're just hoping to to win, frankly, and you're going to have some players that cancel each other out, and I just don't think it's going to be quite as crucial. Again, I think I just err towards Chase Brown here. I like Tyreek Hill. He makes a lot of sense. He's a guy that if he goes off can absolutely just bury an opponent. But I think in this format, there is that floor ceiling combo with Chase Brown. So I'm just simply not going to pass that up here. Get a couple of elite running backs with Barkley, Brown, and Lad. So far, so good. Hartman, I'm terrified of the volume Saquon shouldered last year. Yeah, he was at 345 carries last season, which is a absolutely crazy workload. But it's just kind of tough to know when the wheels are going to fall off, and injuries and variants can be so random. I simply think that offense is so good. I mean, his yards before contact are just crazy. That scheme just opens up massive holes for Saquon, so much more than so many other running backs that I think he's, for somebody who has that much mileage on him last season, he certainly got a lot of easy initial carries kind of through the hole. You only need to do one or two of these to see how quickly RBs dry up and sharply adjust your strategy. Yeah, that is why I did try to get some ranks in here, even though I'm clearly ignoring them because I have it sorted by ADP. London could be round one. Sorry, London could be in the first round next season, not in the range for Lad. I think I agree with you. I do have London as a higher tier than Lad there. Do I want to take don't love the Mixon in a walking boot, but I do think maybe we're getting a little bit of a discount of that. And he, I like the excuse me, I like Houston's offense quite a bit this season. pretty high on some of these receivers, but now I can feel like I can back off of running back and have running back be my flex here. Again, if we're going to play this like running backs are going to dry up, maybe we can catch some better receiving values. But yeah, going back to that, I agree. I probably was a little bit cowardly with the week 5 bye thing with London. I guess it's because maybe I'm thinking about my exposures for other tournaments too much, where I have a lot more London than I do Lad, and this is not the place to even that out. Same here. I'm fading him a decent amount in other contests, but in Eliminator, I'm hammering him. So yeah, talking about Saquon. If you remove the Le'Veon Bell season, running backs since 2010 with 400 plus touches have averaged 12.5 games played the following season. So yeah, certainly a risk of missing some time. But again, that was one of the big knocks on Saquon is I think he had like 3 seasons where he played less than 13 games or 12 games. JMO would have been my pick. I really like JMO there, but I think I'm going to just take Xavier Worthy as another potentially like big spike weeky upside guy that could bury you in that same mold of a Tyreek Hill kind of player where you're up against them and it could be really bad. So we'll take him again. I really like JMO. Devontae would have been fine. Sutton would have been fine, but I do like when I feel like I have a pretty big floor to then take some guys I think could just have those weeks where they just win you the week. The 370 plus touches is a death sentence thing for Twitter engagement. Yes, that is definitely what the what people like to talk about. ATX Bearcat GM, thank you so much for coming by. James Young, my concern is that Saquon will be much less efficient, not necessarily injury. Yeah, that's certainly always a risk when guys are coming off of like career highs in touches, and you do see that their efficiency could come down. Maybe teams figure out the Eagles scheme a little bit. You certainly could see that. And he definitely got there with a lot of long touchdowns. I mean, the goal line work all really goes to Hurts. So he does need to score kind of from outside the 5, which, can be pretty variant. It can be pretty variant year to year. I mean, there's just, no difference between getting tackled at the 1 and getting in the end zone, really. It's just kind of luck whether it happens. So yeah, it definitely could be some regression there, but not really enough for me to be scared off of taking him. It's certainly not like in this eliminator format. Oh no, I think the offensive line. Hold on, I am picking next. So Jacoby Myers feels like the classic quote unquote eliminator ass pick. I think I'm going to take Debo, though. I'm kind of in on Debo. I think that that scheme is really just going to look to get him more involved. Again, another guy that I think, if I'm putting in a floor with running back, maybe I'm putting in a little more of a ceiling with some of these receivers, especially Ladd. He feels like kind of more of like a safe kind of guy, although he himself can have pretty massive spike weeks. So swinging for the fences a little bit with some of these receivers. I know obviously I've got a couple of week 12 and week 10 buys, so that hopefully not putting in a ceiling to this team. So we'll see if we can avoid getting too heavy on those. But hopefully we can get past that. My preference coming up, I think, would be Sam Laporta. I do think having one of the more elite tight ends is going to be an advantage in a head-to-head matchup. Would have been nice to catch one of the elite quarterbacks. Maybe actually this would be a Mahomes team. If I'm going to tell myself that Mahomes is in that elite quarterbacks tier and I have Worthy, that almost makes sense to me. I think yesterday I said that I think the eliminator is really going to need to be won by a team with an elite quarterback. I kind of do believe that because your Allens, your Lamars, your Daniels, if they put up a 45-point week and you don't have them, like you're really playing from behind. And if you have an elite quarterback, they can just like win you the week sometimes in a head-to-head. So I'm going to tell myself that Mahomes is going to be in that mold this season, that the Chiefs defense regresses a little, but we'll see. So built out a stack. Again, I think stacking is a little less important in the eliminator, but I don't mind it. This will probably be a 3 QB team regardless, and then we'll see maybe if we can get a later lad or another back stack or two. All right, James, the offensive line averages 365 pounds, are still all pro wide receivers to keep 8 men out of the box. They can't bracket Goddard. I don't see the offense taking a step back. Yeah, the Eagles offense is really good. They just, you just wish they threw the ball more, because they have so many electric players, and we all want to see that, but that's just not what they want to do. I mean, they want to run the ball, 400 times in a season and just wear teams down. And Saquon, last year proved that was like the literal path to winning a Super Bowl. James, no problem typing in the AM. It's it affects all of us. I'm glad I don't have to be typing all this that I'm saying, or it would make no sense. I will have 4 to 6 Saquon and BBM, but I'm opting for extra JJ, popping CMC at the 102 on occasion. I don't think that's crazy. I mean, Jefferson, you see Jefferson go ahead of Bijan in front of Saquon in a lot of drafts. So I think there's a lot of agreement there as far as like potential need for more wide receiver firepower. If I'm going to take a classic eliminator pick, I think I'm going to take Kupp here. Again, I when I took him yesterday, I said I think he might have kind of like an Adam Thielen kind of arc to his game, and were he not injured, I think that's entirely in the realm of possibilities. Darnold, I don't think Darnold is so bad that he can't support a couple of receivers out there. I don't think the target competition from the third receiver is going to be anything too crazy there either. And so if he stays healthy, I think he's kind of a guy that, could potentially like fall into the end zone a couple times in a game, and at the very least give me some kind of floor, assuming he's not absolute dust as a fourth receiver, and preventing me from being in like absolute bye week purgatory. Let's see. I have 14.3 Saquon through 70 BBMs so far. So you're either sun running like 102s, 103s, or you're getting him a lot at 3, which is like kind of what's happening to me. So I take him at 2, and then he falls to me at 3 quite a bit. So yeah, I certainly can see that. I'm just going to take Travis Kelce and build out this bet on the Chiefs. Again, I don't want to go like crazy with the stacks. I don't think I'm going to add another Chief. Like, I don't think I would take a Hollywood Brown or a Royals on this team, being that this is the eliminator. But I do, if I'm going to bet on the Chiefs, then I'm going to make that pick there and add Travis Kelce to the crew. So I guess I should have put up the draft board earlier. Apologies for not, because I do think people like having that up. So James's Jefferson exposure is 2.9. So yeah, 2.9 Jefferson through 60. Is that both of you, or both of you at 2.9? I don't have very much of him either. I think I've done 28 BBMs and I have 1 Jefferson. And again, it's just because I just haven't gotten the pick. Like, I take Saquon at 2, and then Jefferson's like never there at 3. I'll load up at Saquon now before all the normies lock him in at 102 over the summer, while people are still drafting Will Shipley in the 160s. Load up on Jefferson later. Well, I like that you have a summertime strategy, and it remains to be seen. I think your intuition is right about the normies coming in and taking Saquon, but you never know. Normies can be easily swayed, and if the word really gets out there that we need to be taking wide receivers early, you never know. People are going to be pretty excited about McCarthy, I think. So we might see more Jefferson love at the 2 than we're hoping for. So coming back to me here, I could potentially take like one of these receivers that I'm not excited about. I might just lock up my Herbert stack here. And then if I have to take a late quarterback, maybe I can. But at least this way I'm not scrambling at QB if I don't. Again, I know you don't have to take stacked quarterbacks, but I do think when I'm in a head-to-head, if I want to win, like I'm going to be up against some other really good teams. If this makes it late, I do want that that opportunity to just like kind of bury teams rather than try to like build essentially a cash team and just squeak over the line every week. I don't know. I don't think I'm sacrificing too much. I don't think I'm sacrificing too much by taking Herbert to stack him here. Again, like I think Burden might come along kind of slowly. Mims, again, he's a spike week guy, so I like him, but I think maybe more in like BBM type contests where I'm trying to really aiming towards the last 3 weeks of the season, where I think Mims is going to have a lot of very low volume weeks. I'll add Charbonnet to the team. Definitely some contingent upside. The possibility that if Warren is moved or something, he could see a big workload, or Charbonnet could find greener pastures. But add him in. So far we've got Mahomes and Herbert, running back room of Saquon, Chase Brown, Joe Mixon, and Charbonnet. Wide receiver room of Ladd, Worthy, Debo, and Kupp, and Travis Kelce at tight end. All right, let's see. I wish I could get the front end of the board. Yes, CLN 2020. I know there's a site that lets you upload your teams and you can see like what your position breakdown is, because I know I did in the puppy. I barely got in the first 3. Like it just like never happened. So hopefully I just get more. I just want even exposures for BBM. No, Dirty P has 20% Jefferson. Okay, so he just does not agree with James Young's wild fade on Jefferson. But Dirty P, I assume that means you don't have very much Saquon and possibly Bijan yourself, depending on how that's falling. I'm always 9 to 12. Yeah, I don't mind the 12. The 11 and 12 I like. The 9, yeah, it kind of depends what comes around the turn. I think Saquon is a more valuable click than Jefferson. But certainly it changes how you build the rest of your team. So I think that's like, to me, that's going to be a huge part of it. All right, man. This is very interesting stuff. How high they have Adam Thielen here, but receiver really gets gross. I am not super enamored with these receiver or running backs in this range. I'm going to take a Dallas Goedert, which I think enables me, if I have to end at 2 tight ends, I can. I'm definitely Goedert over Ferguson, and I didn't want 2 week 10 buys for my tight ends. I'm going to add another probably receiver here. I don't know if it's worth taking that. I don't know if it's worth taking Thielen that high up. I mean, I know he's kind of that like boring kind of play who we think makes sense in the eliminator, but he really could just end up being a 0 by the end of the season. There's so many young receivers on that Carolina team that I don't know if that's actually like who I want to make a big bet on in this format. If Palmer goes, I know I'm like, oh, don't take Adam Thielen, take Josh Palmer. Josh Palmer like really stinks, but they did pay him, and I think there's a chance that Palmer ends up, I've kind of come around to the idea that he could see more volume than we've necessarily given credit for. So I'll add a Palmer to this room. Unfortunately, I don't have any great third QB stacks that are super apparent. I guess Thielen would potentially give that if I wanted to add a Bryce Young to the team. But let's see if we do get Palmer. If we don't, this could end up being like Tyler Algier might be the pick here. So I'll take Palmer. Spread out the bye weeks a little bit. Week 7, a little piece of the Buffalo offense. Not my favorite click on the board, but one that I do feel like might make a certain amount of sense. I am at 18% Jefferson and 3% Barkley through 61 BBMs. We are playing the market in opposition. I think Jefferson is going to be the 102 in mid-August. So yeah, so you are projecting the quote unquote normies to arrive and then get frothy for Jefferson. So yeah, I mean, I think when you think about it, to me, it's like it's a little odd that we have, we've all agreed that Jamar Chase is the 101, but then the 102, like we're putting Bijan in between Jamar Chase and Justin Jefferson. And I think there's like reasonable discussion about the difference between Chase and Jefferson. Like, I don't know, from a talent perspective, they're pretty dang close. I don't know. I think it's pretty close between those two, and yet we've like shoehorned in an elite running back in between the two just to like keep them separate. Because I think if you saw Jefferson at the 102, then what's going to stop people from taking him at the 101 in some situations? I don't know. I think that whole top three might get pretty jumbled, especially if we do see Jefferson flip Saquon. But I also have 16% Chase because I'm running hot on picks 1 through 4. Yeah, that could be really nice. If Chase is who you need, that is that is impressive. How are you guys at 60 plus BBMs? This is the ultimate year to save drafts for August. When we have news, then we have learned almost nothing since the draft. I'm sympathetic to the early drafting people because there are times when you might just win because you took them early. Like anyone who's taking Tyler Algier, let's say, and I'm not trying to speak any ill into the world, but let's say Bijan, has some season-ending injury in training camp, then Tyler Algier is going to go in like the first 4 rounds, whereas you're getting him at like 150, 160 now. So you do have times when like backup running backs can just like, be absolute league winners that you're taking now that you just won't be able to get later. So, it might not be information, but you can get like crazy, contingent upside injury value. I don't know, that kind of stuff can happen. You can have people win jobs. You have trades where so you can end up with like ADPs you can't get. So that is why I have some sympathy for it. I don't know if that's, likely enough to use all of your bullets early, but I do think having at least some portion of your drafts now, isn't the worst process. You're certainly going to draft more dead players. Like if somehow like Will Shipley is not the backup, there's going to be a lot of people with a lot of Will Shipley, like, which is just like eating a 0. And he's like 100% drafted player. So let's see. I could potentially take Darnold with my cup. That feels pretty gross. Let's see what other quarterbacks are available. Show Dart. Gesicki, Ertz. Yeah, this is pretty thin here. I guess I'll just take a Cedric Tillman share. I mean, I think Tillman's fine. He's, another different bye week, a little bit of ADP value. I don't mind that. I don't know if, maybe I should take Sam Darnold at least for like early season production, but yeah, it is tough. I think I'm kind of committed to 2 quarterbacks. I don't know that it makes sense for me to add like a very late Milrow to this team type, because I don't know if that's like getting way too cute in this format where you're taking a 0 for multiple weeks in hopes that you might like get some kind of later spike week. That said, I think I definitely would prefer to build 3 QB in the eliminator. I just don't know if that's going to happen. If Darnold comes around, maybe I take him with my next pick. Let's pull up the draft board. I'm also not at my normal setting, so it's like a lot harder for me to see what is going on. The real 102 is CD, but I don't have the risk tolerance. Now that is a hot take. I was taking a ton of CD ahead of ADP in the big board, And, again, because there was just absolutely no target competition, I think Pickens is a good number 2 there because he's not like super target dominant, but he could take a little bit of Lamb's touchdown equity away. But yeah, I'm never sad if I leave the first round with CD. I mean, it's half PPR where running backs are kings. I don't see that happening. In fact, I see CMC solidly rising to the first round, and any rookie running back who locks down an early down roll to rise sharply. Yeah, I think CD's kind of sell wall is the Gene T price. I don't think he's gonna flip him, but if he does, then it's possible he really does kind of steam into the 106 106 kind of range. I'll take a Darius Slayton share here. Again, another late bye week kind of. I think he has a little bit of ceiling to him. He randomly will just spike in weeks, so he's going to be out there on the field. They paid him well. We'll give Darius break the Slayton a shot, and then wind this out. I'll probably take one more tight end here and one more running back is kind of how I think I want to play this. All right. I have drawn 10 101 spots through 64 BBMs. It was the opposite in the big board where I finished with 10 101s through 150. Yeah, it's crazy how it works out. But I mean, if you've ever played roulette, you know that, if they have 32 spins, every number is not going to come at least once. You're going to have some numbers, one number is going to hit 4 times, and a bunch of numbers are never going to come. And that's kind of like this. We have a roulette with only 12. With only 12 spaces instead of 38. So we're playing that, and we only get to spin it 150 times in these contests. So like weird stuff like that's going to happen, and it's most noticeable at the 101 where there's one player that you really just don't get anywhere else. I'll take Jatavion Sanders. Again, another late bye week play. I think there's a chance that he has a little bit of a breakout with Carolina. So I don't mind adding him. Maybe it would have been nice if I did a Thielen Ward thing here. But again, we're pretty committed to the bit with only 2 quarterbacks, unless we potentially get some kind of get really cute with Milrow. But again, I just don't think that Eliminator is the format for that. You never know, CLN. We could have late summer rises that create impossible combos. A Jags RB emerges, Jaden Blue, etc. Yeah, again, that kind of thing is the reason for drafting early. But the reason for drafting late is you just won't have as many dead roster spots. Like if you draft the day before the season, like if you have a dead roster spot, it's because somebody got hurt, like in an NFL game, and there's nothing you can do about that. But you won't have if we're taking Taj Brooks, and then Zach Moss is the number 2, and Brooks never sees the field, we just 8-0. But, if we're taking Taj Brooks, conversely, and Moss has a setback, or Brooks is better, then the Moss people are taking a 0, and we're getting a guy who's undrafted in most contests, like that you won't be able to get in August. So it's, there's definitely trade-offs to both. But yes, so CLN wants 70 for August. I'm playing it a little more like that too, CLN, where I'm going to be pretty back weighted with my BBMs. Right now I'm focusing on getting combos. I don't think I'll be able to get later. I'll probably stop at 100 until week 3 preseason and draft other contests. Yeah, James, that's why we need another puppy, so that we can keep drafting but not use all of our BBM bullets. All right. And I will conclude this draft with, man, the running backs are disgusting here. It's pretty grim, huh? I don't know. That doesn't feel great. I'm going to take Krosky Merritt if I can click fast enough. All right. I'm going to take a shot on Krosky Merritt. Maybe that was not the best pick in an eliminator, but I do think he's got some kind of sneaky upside. He's been getting some decent coach speak. I think the running back room in Washington might be kind of wide open, and I don't mind getting that. It's a little different. So this team will end up with Mahomes and Herbert at QB, Saquon, Chase Brown, and Mixon with Zach Charbonnet, Rico Dowdle, and Corey Krosky-Merritt. Ladd, Worthy, Debo, Cup, Josh Palmer, Cedric Tillman, and Slayton at wide receiver with Travis Kelce, Dallas Goedert, and Jatavion Sanders in at tight end. Not too bad. Skeletor, I apologize. I meant to be going through your team as we were going, but I got very excited about the discussion about when to draft. So let's look at your team. So you went 2-6-8-2 with Lamar and T-Law. I love Lamar in the eliminator. I think there's a non-zero chance that you will need one of the 4 elite quarterbacks to win this contest. That's kind of my hot take. Running back room, it looks like you went more zero hero RB with Cook, Judkins, and then Tyrone Tracy, Tank Bigsby, Tyler Algier, and Audric Estime. So you kind of swam a little counter to the room with the running backs, taking a little more later round swings on guys, trying to get some value into James Cook and Judkins, who could potentially be underpriced for what they're giving you. Puka, BTJ, Sutton, Jerry Jeudy, Josh Downs, Egbuka, Thielen, and Wicks at receiver. Nice receiver room with Ertz and Otten at tight end. So definitely leaning on the strength of the quarterback in your wide receiver room. Skeletor, like your team, I hope we can make it through. Chad, we are trying to preach abstinence and an orgy. We can't help ourselves with early drafting. No, we can't. And that's the perfect segue into trying to see how we're doing in a 30-second BBM. So let me hop into this and see how many people we're waiting for. Okay, we're going to have to try a 20-second because ship chasing is on at 10 and this is waiting for 11. So we just missed it. I almost hopped into one before that was done. And I said, no, let me focus on this eliminator. So let's see. Waiting for 9 in a 20-second. All right. I will sit in this. And if it doesn't start filling, I'll have to look for some greener pastures. Because again, I think 45 minutes is about the time we need. So I guess we have about 10-ish minutes to fill. Hopefully we can get this in. Yes, we are degens. Sorry, Dirty P. Yes, I should have known that. We are. When we can't help ourselves, and that's okay. Again, 8 people for this BBM. Sauce my team. Oh, I can do that. All right. I'll go back and do that after I catch up with chat. I think the first picks should be wide receiver, especially when you do the 1v1 with wide receiver RB value near the 2-3 turn. Yeah, Karain did this exercise and really did make a strong case that taking wide receiver first is superior to taking running back if you do the 2v2s. Now, again, I think that's one of those exercises that's a lot easier to do in June where it looks and sounds good, and then the games happen and these combos that we think are good aren't, and so you just really don't know. But I do agree. I think that at least right now, some of those 2v2s look better when you start with receiver because there's some nice running backs in that second, third, fourth round. CMC can flip GT with 2 good camp reports and 1 slow motion Twitter clip of him running a drill. I think there's enough German stem cell FUD to where it's not going to happen, but I'd love to see it. PPR Tyler, Chad, my man, thank you so much for coming by. Again, if y'all don't subscribe to PPR Tyler, you should. He is trying to break the record for consecutive streams. I don't know the exact number. I know it's around 130 you're at, I think, which is absolutely incredible dedication. And so he is just putting in the work, making content for everybody. It's a fantastic stream, does great stuff. If you catch at least one of his streams, catch the Typhel Tower, where it's him, BBG, and Emo Cowboy. It is hilarious. It is appointment streaming. So make sure you sub to PPR Tyler. CMC has already seen his ADP rise 3 or 4 spots simply on reports that he's healthy. CMC could flip Gibbs if people are worried about the Lions O-line through camp. I don't know if I agree with that. People are really excited about Gibbs. People love Gibbs, and he just smashed last year when Montgomery was hurt in the playoffs. So I don't know. I can't imagine. I'd have a hard time clicking him ahead of Gibbs. It got gross at the end. No, your team is good, other than Wicks. We'll get back to that though. I like the 4, 5, 6, 7 turn RBs. Yeah, that if you like Caleb and Judkins range, then I certainly agree with that. JT Best Ball, Mr. Thibodeau, thank you so much for coming by. Again, Thibodeau is out there. streaming as well. I think he lined up. Can't remember who you lined up as a guest, if it was BBG, but I know you've got some great stuff coming out. So make sure to check out his channel too. Hartman, that's kind of scary. Who besides Jewish McCaffrey would ever do that? I don't think it would be over a Raiders rookie RB. Yeah, I have a trouble seeing him flipping. Gibbs. Cheers, drafting with you, Chad. Hey, Skeletor, thank you so much for coming in. Maybe it's too far. I could see people having crazy FOMO. All right. Superflex, and I'm there. Let's see if we can do a Superflex puppy. I'll hop out of that. Let me just hop out of that BBM. Oh my God, I have 19 minutes remaining on a pick. So hold on, I might have to. Got a couple things going on. All right, I'm gonna hop in a Superflex puppy. I don't know what I'm doing with Superflex, so I think I'm being psyoped by you guys who do. But we'll let's see. All right, I'll try a 20-second Superflex puppy. See where we're at. Waiting for 4. All right. So, yeah, Dirty P, if you want to hop in, waiting for 3. We're in a Superflex puppy, waiting for 2. It's undeniably true. Hartman, it's my first time. He hasn't been to Consensus 101. Yeah, there was that weird year where people were taking Taylor over him, and then that didn't work because I believe Jonathan Taylor sprained his ankle, and we all felt stupid. Our Lions center was a top 3 run blocker past 5 years, I'm pretty sure. Yeah, I don't know. I hope that it doesn't. I hope that things don't change there. I love that Lions offense. I want to see it continue to succeed. So I just want to believe in that. I'm going to sauce your team real quick because there was a request for saucing Skeletor. So let's see real quick, Skeletor. I think my draft might have filled, but we're gonna go real quick. We're gonna go quick here. All right, so you got Lamar and T-Law. Great job getting 2 quarterbacks in a format where you're really gonna need 3 to win. James Cook, he's holding out. He's probably gonna hurt his hamstring in practice. Quinshon Judkins, wow, Cleveland might score 4 touchdowns on the season. Hopefully, at least one of them goes to Judkins. Tracy, good job getting Scatterbo's back up. Tank Bigsby, didn't you hear? ETN is back, and they drafted 2. And LaQuint Allen's probably better. Tyler Algier, okay, so you need Bijan to get hurt, and he has a week 5 bye. Good job. Audric Estime, because he got benched in the playoffs. So, makes sense to draft that guy. Puka Nacua doesn't even know the other teams in his division because he doesn't really care about football. BTJ, they drafted Travis Hunter because I'm sure that's they were happy with Thomas at wide receiver 1. Okay, I don't even believe that. Cortland Sutton, they want to trade him every year, and we're taking him. Makes sense. Jerry Judy, hold on, let me make sure I'm not picking. I'm gonna pull this up on my phone. I don't want to miss my pick. All right, I'm up next. I'm taking either Daniels or Hurts. Josh Downs, because they have 6 receivers in Indy. I'm sure he'll be the one you need in a given week. Igbuka, okay, you take a rookie in an eliminator format, real smart. Adam Thielen, he's going to retire. Dontavian Wicks is just bad. And you only have Ertz and Otten at tight end. So I'm really not sure how do you expect to get any points from that position. I hope that was okay. All right. I've never sauced anyone. So there we go. Back to the super flex, but puppy. So I did get Jalen Hurts here. All right. So we've got PPR Tyler in at the 2. Hartman here at the 1. I'm in at the 4. Dirty P at the 8. So we've got a pretty strong team in there. All right. How did that work with the Eagles when they lost their All-Pro center and both coordinators? So Skeletor with the snark there won the Super Bowl the following year. Had a good draft with BBG last Friday. All right, you're good at saucing, Chad. Well, thank you. It is all it is all good natured. My team easily could have been sauced there. I don't think I drafted the world's best eliminator team. So here we are in the Superflex. Again, I think my goal in these is generally to end up with I like to say what I'm doing when I'm drafting with 4 people who are watching, but I'm probably going to try to just take no receivers through 6. I think my goal is like 3 quarterbacks, 3 running backs, and no receivers. We'll see if we can actually stick to that. I am a sucker for falling value, and so we'll see. If might be hard to like pass up on a Hurts, AJ Brown kind of stack if that is there. So let's just see what comes around. I thought I put in rankings. I thought I had Superflex rankings, but I don't. So we're just going off of ADP and good vibes. ADP and good vibes here. All right, so we've got a few double QB people. The turn getting Baker and Kyler, Lucas Williams getting Bo Nix and Justin Fields, while Bradley Maddox does the double RB start, which you do see. Dirty P trying a 0 QB strategy with Jefferson and Gene T. It's not value in this format. It's a falling knife. Well, let's see what we get. I think, yeah, I don't think I want Henry. Man, Caleb. This is a little bit of a bummer because this stinks. I hate this pick. Can I get A-Chain? Nope, too slow. I hate this pick because I feel like it's a pretty flat tier among pocket passers. And so, like, I don't care if I get Caleb, Goff, Dak, Herbert, May. Like, that's all kind of the same. So I do wish I maybe had taken some more elite position player. I think A-Chain. I think I would have rather gone A-Chain and then another quarterback there. Maybe even one of these elite receivers. I don't know if I love how I don't know if I love the Caleb pick. I think I should have taken an elite position player instead of Caleb, but I kind of just froze at the moment of truth. And anytime you're drafting, you should probably be ready in the first 2 rounds for what to do. But I don't do a ton of super flex, and trying to learn from people that do know what they're doing, like PPR Tyler. I would have taken Nico. I quite like Nico there. But let's see. I guess I'm just going to take Jonathan Taylor. I'm going to take Jonathan Taylor here, so I get at least some running back I consider in the elite tier. So let's look at what people smarter than me are doing. Hartman going Allen, Dak, and A-Chain. PPR Tyler going Lamar, Neighbors, and Amon-Ra. So he gets 2 elite receivers plus a rushing quarterback. So I think PPR Tyler says, I am in a room with a complete newbie, so I'm going to try to take advantage of that and push quarterback. So he and running back. So he takes a couple of elite receivers. Dirty P with no QBs through 3, risking it all with Jefferson, Gene T, and Bucky. And if there's anyone else in here that I'm missing, please let me know. People taking Waddle and Olave as wide receiver 4 over 3rd QB in Superflex are dead in the water. Interesting, James. I'm going to fully admit Superflex is not a format I did last year. I think I did like 15 drafts, and it was mostly just to like get my feet wet. And I don't think I advanced a single team, if I'm going to be perfectly candid with you all, because I've tried to put in a little more effort into learning what I'm doing. And mostly that involves watching PPR Tyler stream. I do think it's possible. There are a few very late quarterbacks who are going to play this season, like, Tyler Show, Jackson Dart, potentially then like guys like Milrow, your Daniel Joneses. So you might be able to, if one of those guys is good, you might be able to cobble together a 3rd QB out of, create them in the aggregate to borrow, the Moneyball parlance there. So it looks like so far Bradley Maddox now only has 1 quarterback. So he takes Herbert. The elite tight ends go off the board. Again, I'm not really sure how I feel about elite tight end. My inclination is tight end scoring matters less because it's going to be a smaller percentage of your weekly score. So let's see what Pocket Aces does. I'm going to take a lad. I think he's kind of the end of the receivers I consider elite. Certainly an argument that, one of these running backs made sense. Maybe that should have been Josh Jacobs should have been that pick. But, if I'm only starting two receivers a week, I think lad is kind of the end of a tier. Whereas I might be able to pick up one of those, Caleb-y, those guys we talked about before, those like Caleb Judkins kind of backs and make up for that in a little bit of volume. But let's see. PPR Tyler, he takes Chase Brown. So again, that kind of confirms I probably should have taken a running back. I suspect he's probably going to take a quarterback here. Yep, he takes Bryce Young. So again, there's just not enough of a difference between like a Caleb and a Bryce Young to justify that pick. I know I keep harping on this, but I don't love that that decision I made earlier. So let's see what we get here. Yeah, maybe we do just take quarterback is just done though. I'm going to try to take Tua. All right. We're going to take Tua. We're going to be done at quarterback here. And we're going to just try to make up for the other positions later. Maybe add like a fourth, like if there's some crazy late quarterback I want, but kind of try to starve the room out maybe a little bit at QB and, feel like I have a pretty strong QB room and take 3 quarterbacks through 5. Again, I said I wasn't going to take a receiver in the first 6, and I completely abandoned that plan. So I apologize for rugging you guys on that. That was the plan. And then I saw Lad, and I got excited. Steve's Superflex article on Fanspeak was really good for strategy. Yeah, Fanspeak's awesome. They've got a great Substack, and I sub to that, so I should probably use it and read Steve's article on Superflex to have a better idea of knowing what I am doing. But I think that's kind of was his strategy was later receiver, because you only have to start 2 receivers in this format versus like BBM and whatnot where you're starting 3. And that does make a difference. You don't have to hunt for that third receiver quite as much. You can focus more on running backs who are more likely to hit your flex, and running back does dry up pretty quickly. Like the third receiver dries up fast, but the second receiver not as bad. You can end up with a second receiver you're pretty happy with a little later in a draft. So let's see what we end up getting here. Going over Dirty P added Geno. So he's got McCarthy and Geno, and we're already into the kind of like thin quarterback zone with Darnold, who, might not be projected to finish the entire season. I think he's kind of the end of, guys where it's more likely than not they finish the year, but I don't know, what the odds are of Darnold actually finishing the season is. So let's see what Dirty P does. He does get his stack of McCarthy and Jefferson, which is nice. He takes Tyreek Hill. That would have been a nice pick for me, having gotten Tua. But we do not get that. DJ Moore would make a stack, but I just can't say no to JMO. I'm just going to take Jameson Williams. I am a massive JMO slappy. I think this really could be the year of Jameson Williams. So I'm just going to take him there and then feel decent enough about my my wide receivers with Lad and JMO. Obviously, I'm going to have to add some more, but I'm really high on him. It is hard for me to feel like I have enough Williams. Tyler taking Ken Walker, so he gets he's got 2 QBs, 2 receivers, and 2 running backs. So just filling out the old roster over there, just doing things that make sense. All right, let's see what comes over to us. Hope you are channeling true vibes on JMO. This is a very vibes-based draft. I don't have rankings, and I don't really have a strategy that I'm actually following. So this is nothing if not pure vibes. So Tyler then adds Judkins. I do like that pick. I probably should be adding a running back now, but it has gotten thin, and I am going to do the thing I said is less important. I'm just going to take George Kittle and hope that I'm wrong about the elite tight end thing, and that elite tight end matters in this format. And maybe I can make up running back later. Again, I said I was going to have 3 running backs through 6 rounds, and I have 1 running back through 7 rounds. So I had a plan, and I didn't do it. I didn't do it, and that's probably bad because people that know what they're doing, like Tyler has 3 running backs, Hartman has 4 running backs, and I am sitting here somehow with only 1, watching them fly off the board. But we'll see. We'll see what we get. At least I know I'm good at quarterback. At least I know I'm good at quarterback. Hartman adds James Conner to his team, and Dirty P takes Tony Pollard. So I like his running back room. Gene T, Bucky, and Pollard feels pretty strong there. And let's see what comes around the turn for us. Just looking offhand, doesn't look like anybody truly ended up in jail in this draft. Just as far as like quarterbacks and structure, it does seem like sometimes you do these super flex drafts and somebody like doesn't realize it's super flex and like doesn't have a quarterback or tries to push quarterback and just ends up with nothing. People do, other than maybe Bradley Maddox, who went Herbert and is now trying to like make up for it with Darnold and Show. Everyone else does seem like their teams are going to be somewhat competent. Let's see. Steve has been making his rounds. And it's good articles out on FanSpeak. I've been trying to catch the streams he's on. I think he had 3 super flex finals teams last year. I was in a room with him and who last night. Yeah, no, he's super sharp. Super sharp. Actually, weirdly enough, I know Steve in real life. So we met before, like years and years ago, and I knew he was in fantasy, and I had no idea he played Underdog until I saw him on one of Pat Fantasy Dog Pound's streams. I saw him in the chat, and I'm like, I know that name. And reached out to him, and I'm like, so yes, Steve is a good guy in real life, and I'm so happy that he's like made such a name for himself here because he is a absolute 100% ball knower, and he's a great guy. I am going to add Aaron Jones and tell myself that it is 2 years ago and that we're getting a huge value on Aaron Jones. Again, I don't think it was, I like the idea of the Waddle stack, but I think it's going to get way too thin if I don't take an Aaron Jones. Yeah. Drafting with who and Steve is good times. And I caught part of that stream, but I think I caught it after Steve had logged, or no, yesterday. I'm sorry. Who Hames had BBG on that. But yeah, the rounds 8 to 12 receivers can build a decent room, especially with one top end wide receiver needing to start 2. I hope you're right, Hartman. I hope you're right in this because I only have 1 elite receiver and I'm trying to catch up later. So there goes B-Rob. Boy, taking Jordan Mason and handcuffing Minnesota does not feel like a winning strategy. So I'm going to take Scatabo and hope that he is like catching up at running back. This has been a tough scene here. You know what we need though? We need the Ducks. I think the Ducks are going to turn this around. So let me get that going here. All right. Now we are cooking. So Tyler added Waddle and B-Rob. So again, confirming Waddle would have been a good pick, yet I passed on him. Hartman takes Pacheco and Aaron Rodgers. So he adds that third quarterback who could potentially be a starter there. Let's see. No, you don't have any Steelers, but that's okay. And currently only 1 receiver with Rashee Rice. Very interesting. So you are, I'm going to pull this back up, living your truth here that the rounds 8 to 12 wide receivers can build a decent room. So I do applaud you for actually doing what you're saying. Unlike me, who said he was going to have 3 running backs in 6 rounds and left with 1. GM Chad, I see you're struggling as usual. Gavin, I'm so glad you're in here to notice that. I'm so glad you're in here to notice that I am building a firmly mediocre Superflex team. This has 8th place in the pod written all over it. But you know what? We're going to tell ourselves that Hurts and Caleb and Tua unstacked are what you need to win Superflex. me doing this is really so that you can watch what people who know what they're doing, like Dirty P and Tyler and and Hartman are doing. Let's see. So Dirty P, Gino. So yeah, you've got Gino, Gene T there. Doesn't look like you got you're not the Bowers guy, but that's okay. There's a few late options if you were trying to stack him. I may have pushed wide receiver too hard. We will see. Yeah, it's a little thin here, but it's not really the end of the world to be perfectly honest with you. I don't hate some of the names that I see there. Let's see. I really thought I was going to be able to get somebody from I'm going to take Darnell Mooney, big fan of him. I think he's definitely a tier above Pearsall, Ayuk, and Cup in this range. And I'm just, again, I don't want to take Tracy if I have made my my bet on Scatabo. Maybe the Kittle bet was kind of where this team went a little awry. I probably should have taken like a running back in that range, but I think the running backs I wanted were gone. So let's see what Tyler does. Tyler takes Ricky Pearsall. Not worried about May soft tissue injuries, which is certainly understandable. And he takes Russ, so gets a little bit of early season QB production. We are on the board, and I'll take Tootin here. My wide receiver running back room is pretty thin. I know that the coach speak came out about Etienne, quote unquote, doing everything they asked him to do and doing it well. Now, my hope is they were asking Etienne to like refill the Gatorade, to like take notes on film, to like bring the clipboards. I'm hoping he's doing that stuff well. That's how I'm reading that, because I cannot live in a world of Travis Etienne being a thing in 2025. I have so much Tootin. I have a lot of Bigsby. I just can't. I just can't do that again. It was on mine. Okay, awesome, JT. I am gonna have to catch that on replay. I may have pushed wide receiver too hard. We will see though. We will see. All right, let's see. Luther Burden could be a priority so that I end up with at least one stack on this team. Maybe Loveland if I want to take another tight end. Again, I don't really want to prioritize tight end too heavily in this format. Let's see what people have done. Dirty P, he takes Andrews. So Dirty P gets a couple of good tight ends with Laporta and Andrews. This being 20 rounds, you can take a couple darts on the super late quarterbacks and have that not feel too bad. Just want to make note of Daniel Jones going in the 9th round. He was in the 13 to 14 when this contest opened. Something for next year is if you do play Superflex, there are big values on day one. More so than I think there were in regular BBM, because the ADPs are just completely wrong. And so you can build teams that you will not be able to build on days 3 and on. So I do think that is one where jamming early contest is actually a fairly big edge. The Ducks always help. Yeah. There's a lot of ambient noise in the background of there's someone jackhammering 3 houses down. So having the Ducks on is certainly helping drown out some of that. Let's see. So I think I would take Luther Burden here to add a 4th receiver. Probably need that more than another tight end, and might try to well, there goes Loveland, who would have been who I'd take, but we'll take the flyer on Burden. So now at least I have one stack here, and then running back just gets so thin, and we have Taylor, Jones, Scatabo, and Tootin. Not the world's greatest when you're trying to count on starting 3 each week. And Joku probably would have been my pick at tight end. I really like Njoku this year. I think he is drastically undervalued. let's see, Tyler. Yeah, that's your first tight end. So I certainly makes sense as a pick. Kyle Williams was in strong consideration for me to take. So let's see what Tyler takes. Ray Davis, makes sense. Some contingent upside, as well as, you know what? I'm just taking Jalen Milroe because I'm sure somebody was counting on him, and now I have him. I probably didn't need 4 QBs on this team, but all of these guys are kind of the same to me, and I'm just going to take the flyer that he is playing late in the season and maybe could save this team. Again, with 3 starting quarterbacks, adding a 4th there, is that bad? Maybe. But is he as likely to hit my lineup as like Rachaad White? Like, I don't really care if I miss out on Rachaad White. I'm going to take some very late round flyers. Again, opinions may vary on that, but I do have to think there were at least some teams who only had 2 QBs or 3, and you know, one of them is a you know, like a Daniel Jones type, might have needed a Milroe for the construction they're getting at. And again, he could be pretty strong late season quarterback, especially in Superflex with how much rushing upside he has. Again, I will not take a 5th quarterback. That much I can promise all of you. All right. So Hartman added Bateman, Kyle Williams. Tyler added Njoku and Ray Davis, and 30P took Shaheed and Algier. So not bad there. I do like the Algier, a lot of contingent upside, as well as, you know, at least some small role during this season. Yeah, so Patrick Mahomes here with Shadur Sanders and Joe Flacco after taking Baker and Kyler. So he's got 2 locked in starters, and then tried to make up that 3rd QB with volume late, which I think is, does seem like it's a viable strategy here in Superflex. Again, I'm still learning this game, so I don't think this team is necessarily the shipper, but hopefully the more of these I do, we can have a better understanding. It's also part of this is like knowing the pockets. Like, I feel like I have a very good grasp of the kind of pockets of receiver and running backs in the normal BBM format, but here it's definitely like a completely different game. And so just kind of like looking at what the board is giving me right now versus planning ahead significantly. I'll add a Rico Dowdle to this team. Gotten a little better coach speak than I expected about it being a kind of a 1-2 punch with Chuba. I don't know if I believe that, but at the very worst, I think he's going to have contingent upside and is going to mix in a little bit. And when I did push running back as hard as I did, I kind of need to take a few of these swings more than taking some of these receivers in this range. But with that said, I'm just going to add a Mike Gesicki to the team. I think he's pretty undervalued at tight end. And, then if I only end with Kittle and Gesicki, that's fine. But I could try to add one more late tight end to the room. GM Lutz, you are witnessing a super flex puppy draft. Trying to get this one in. And I don't do too much super flex, but it did seem like the other contests were going to take a while to fill, and the people wanted Superflex. I really think what they wanted was to be in a room with me and scoop my EV, which, I am happy to oblige when it comes to Superflex. We see Hartman takes Ertz and Palmer, and Tyler takes Leggett and Pitts. So again, Tyler just not afraid of injury. He takes an injured Pittman. He takes Kyle Pitts, who's hurt his foot to some degree or another. No worries, no fear. When you're drafting, you cannot draft out of fear. So he takes Kyle Pitts there. I don't think he's the Penix guy, no, but that's okay. Pitts and Njoku, not too bad of a tight end room. Definitely getting a value on Pitts where we used to get him. Dirty P has since added Betch and Rattler, so he does get the the stack of Betch with Geno Smith on his team, and takes a crack at the Saints quarterback with Rattler. Sounds like Rattler's not doing too horrible in practice. We're all assuming it's going to be show, but there is a world where, Rattler, Rattler was projected to be like the number 1 overall pick like a few years ago, and then obviously that didn't pan out. But the talent is in there somewhere, and if he does start next year, it'll be in a far better circumstance than last season. I'm just going to take Alec Pierce. I think he's fine in all formats. Best ball, unironically better in best ball player, had 800 plus yards last season, capable of breaking the slate with long touchdowns, and is out there running wind sprints. So I don't mind adding Alex Pierce to any team. I can't click Kyle Pitts anymore. I'm finally free from his grasp. Hartman, I am happy for you that you are free from Kyle Pitts. I still take him, unfortunately, because I just want to believe. I want to believe in something, and why not Kyle Pitts? We're at the portion of the draft in Superflex where I'm taking guys I think are going to be out on the field. Dyami Brown, I do like Dyami Brown. Again, if I'm only starting 2 wide receivers, I really hope Dyami Brown is not one of them, because that means things are probably going really bad. But we'll give him a go. I don't mind him. I don't mind him too much here. 20-round format is definitely a little squirrely when people are taking so many quarterbacks. It gets so scrambled at the end of drafts, but I do think Pierce and Brown are perfectly fine picks. Tyler takes some upside on younger players. He takes Jalen Knoll and Jalen Coker. If he didn't take Jalen Coker, then I would be worried that it was an impersonator, but Tyler getting Jalen Coker tracks. Hartman gets Otten and Pat Bryant, while Dirty P adds Darius Slayton and Ollie Gordon. Would absolutely love to see Ollie Gordon out on the field for the Dolphins instead of Alexander Madison. I'm a Dolphins fan. I hope it's Ollie Gordon, but I don't know. I am very worried that Ollie Gordon is not actually going to be a thing this season, when I was really excited that he was going to be the goal line back when they drafted him. I'll say this. He got the number 31, and he said he was happy because it was assigned to him, and it reminds him that 31 teams passed on him. But it's like he didn't even get to pick his jersey number. Like it's like in PE when like there's a pile of jerseys and you just like grab one, when you were like the kid pushed to the back and you just like took whatever was left. Like, not that ever happened to me or anything. But it is just so bearish to me that like he didn't even pick his own jersey. That's how I read that. So that doesn't seem great. Anyway, yeah, I'm a little concerned. And then like last week, they asked a question about Jalen Wright, and they listed, the coach listed all the running backs on the Dolphins and left off Ollie Gordon, like just didn't even mention him, which just does not seem good. Tragic story, poor Ollie. Hope he finds his motivation. I know, I hope so too. I mean, who knows? Maybe he didn't get mentioned because he was just doing so good. There was, no commentary needed. I added Elijah Arroyo to the tight end room, maybe making a crazy late stack with Jalen Milroe. But we'll see. Tyler takes Nick Chubb, and Hartman takes Audric Estime. This is really grim. I'm going to take my guy Krusty Merritt because I want to take a few late running back swings, trying to figure out if I want my last pick to be another running back or another receiver. I almost think that I'm going to try to take one more running back and hope that it's kind of like Ladd, JMO, Mooney, and Burden are good enough to fill 2 receiver spots. Whereas if, generally things are going better if running back's hitting your flex. So I have Taylor, Aaron Jones, Scatabo, Tootin, Dowdle, Krosky Merritt. Maybe taking one more running back bullet will be how I will round out the team. So let's see. Hartman also added Jatavion Sanders, and Tyler added Kirk Cousins. I think Kirk's a kind of a sneaky pick in the 18th round. I would be surprised if he doesn't start a few games somewhere this season. And Dirty P takes Zach Wilson and Malik Willis. Makes sense if Tua goes down. Zach Wilson feels like a giga smash, and Malik Willis was somewhat competent last year. He didn't get a lot of credit going into the season, but he was able to run the offense. The coach was able to adjust, so I do not mind that pick. I'm a Dolphins fan too. It is a struggle being a Dolphins fan. We have not won a playoff game since 2000, which last I checked was 25 years ago. It is so grim being a Dolphins fan. And now we have to watch everybody fall in love with the stupid Bills. Don't get me started on that franchise. I cannot with the Bills. Just not great. At least we can still make fun of the Jets, because every year there's something with those guys, and it is just hilarious. Hartman already has his last pick queued up, so stay tuned there. I was hoping to get Jordan James. I think he's a perfectly cromulent last pick. Who Hames? Sup, fam? Hey, thank you so much for coming by. Appreciate it. Just rounding out a super flex draft, trying to get everyone out of here before ship chasing comes on at 10. I'm sure if you are here, you have heard of ship chasing, but if you have not, that is a fantastic stream, very informative and a lot of fun. So I will be over there watching after this wraps up. So let's see. Oh yeah. This is a Damian Martinez team, if I have ever seen one. Again, this team tells the story of a horrific Seattle Seahawks collapse. And late in the year, it is Jalen Milroe, Damian Martinez, and Elijah Arroyo. Who says no? Who says no? Some of our favorite slappy picks from the big board can make a triumphant return here. Never heard of it. Is it about boats? It is not about boats. There's very little boat discussion, unless maybe they segue into to Stephon Diggs. It is generally far more best ball focused. So Tyler rounds out the team with Cole, Kmet, and Hartman. I don't know who you picked because the draft board doesn't update in this format. So let's see. It'll just like freeze there. So I don't know who you got. I'm gonna have to exit and come back. All right, let's see. Let's see if we can completed Superflex. So Who Hames, I have done you asked, I have done 11. That was number 11. So let's see. Hartman, I am going to track down your last pick. Why can't I see it? Will Howard. Will Howard. That is who he takes. So it is about how to sync your best ball teams. Yeah, it's a hockey show. Yes, that hockey segue. It literally felt like someone changed my stream into like SAP. And I'm just sitting there. I'm like, I have no idea what this guy's talking about, but he is so passionate that I'm going to listen, but no idea. I know absolutely nothing about hockey. So let's go over our the friends and family teams. So Hartman takes Allen, Dak, Aaron Rodgers, and Will Howard. So he goes 4-6-7-3. I'm going to call this a 3-6-7-3 because I don't think I'm going to count Will Howard as a actual player. Devon A-Chain, Breece Hall, Alvin Kamara, James Conner, Pacheco, and Estime. So you got the memo about running back firepower being important. Rashee Rice, Josh Downs, Cooper Kupp, Rashad Bateman, Kyle Williams, Josh Palmer, and Pat Bryant. So the yang to your yin, your very strong running back room with your very, we'll call it speculative wide receiver room, but a lot of high upside guys, frankly. I do think Cooper Kupp's underrated, and I like Kyle Williams quite a bit. And then Ertz, Otten, and Jatavion Sanders. I like your team. Tyler, let's see 4-6-7-3, but he has a little more of a 4 than Will Howard with Lamar, Bryce Young, Russell Wilson, and Kirk Cousins. I guess kind of a 3. These could each be a half. So maybe maybe 3 quarterbacks on this team. Chase Brown, Ken Walker, Quinshon Judkins, B-Rob, Ray Davis, and Nick Chubb. I do like the Chubb pick. I think he's going to sign somewhere and probably ends up being a riser from there. Will Howard with Rodgers. Okay, so just trying to lock it down in Pittsburgh, understandable. Malik Neighbors, Amon-Ra, Waddle, Pearsall, Leggett, Knoll, and Coker. Very good wide receiver room. I like all these picks. And then Njoku pick Pitts and Kmet. That makes sense. And let's see what Dirty P put together. 5, 6, 7, 2. JJ McCarthy, Geno Smith, and then Rattler, Wilson, and Willis. At least the last 2 just pure handcuffs, but I like that because, reasonable enough chance at least one of them gets out there. Gene T, Bucky, Pollard, Algier, Ollie Gordon, and Emmanuel Wilson. So strong upper tier of running back with a few flyers towards the end. Jefferson, Hill, Addison, Reed, Shaheed, Betch, Slayton. Very good wide receiver room. I like what you put together there, and I like the sneaky, Zach Wilson to Tyreek Hill stack that could end up being pretty much, pretty low owned because, not everyone who's taking Wilson is going to have the forethought to try to stack them. And then Laporta and Andrew. So yeah, good job stopping at 2 tight ends. Very strong tight end room. My team here: Jalen Hurts, Caleb Williams, Tua, and then a Milrow, Jonathan Taylor, Aaron Jones, Cam Scatabo, Bashal Tootin, Rico Dowdle, Corey Krosky-Merritt, Damian Martinez. Again, 1 anchor RB, kind of an anchor RB approach, and then some more flyery players. Aaron Jones is kind of hard to read. I don't know what we're going to get out of him this season. And then Ladd, J-Mo, Mooney, Luther Burden, Alec Pierce, and Diami Brown. I'm trying to lean into the only needing to start 2 receivers. And then Kittle, Gesicki, and Arroyo. I think you do well in Superflex. Chad Candles draft more. That's the sharpest Superflex room I've been in. Well, that's good to hear. I mean, you, Hartman, PPR, Tyler, anyone with those people in the room, it's going to be a sharp room because already 3 out of 12 are sharp off the bat. My team came out mid. Fun drafting with you, though. Well, thank you so much for drafting. Everyone that came in here, it is so much more fun drafting with you guys, even if it is a little bit sharper. It is the way to learn, and so I don't mind, learning in these, $5 contests. I think that's an absolutely great thing to do. I'm just trying to learn from who and PPR Tyler. Maybe the fish can grow up and be a whale. I'll never be sharp. Dirty P, you are not giving yourself enough credit. Hartman, is this one of the tougher Superflex lobbies you played? I'm just going to answer for Hartman. Yes, this was the hardest. This was the hardest. Your team's legit, especially if Pam or Tootin hit. Yeah, it's definitely, trying for a anchor RB approach. But with that, everybody, we have finally broken through 100 subs. We are at 101, and I cannot thank you all enough for getting me there. Will not be able to stream tomorrow. Going to see about Thursday or Friday if I can. I've just had a family trip planned, so I'm going to be a little bit out of the streaming. If I pop on, I don't know if I'm going to be somewhere that I can draft. I don't know if I'm going to be in a underdog state, so I might have to log in and just do some slow draft stuff. So we'll see what we can do, but I'm not going to abandon you all. I've got a long form video coming out, the first one that I've done. So again, thank you all so much. Please, if you haven't, like and subscribe. This is a big highlight of my day, and so I appreciate you all hanging out. Hartman says it was a rough lobby. Who says no pro, just act like it. Who you're not fooling anyone. We know you are a pro. And Dirty P says he tries to keep clear of stream lobbies. Yeah, I certainly understand that. I do not do all of my drafts on stream because they are significantly harder on stream, but I do like doing these with you all. So again, thank you so much for hanging out today, and I'll see you all again soon. Take care, everyone.